Welcome in to our first piece of long form content since July. I have been keeping up with the podcast in terms of the energy updates. I release those every week on a Sunday or a Monday since July, which is when I found out about needing the mastectomy. I simply didn't have the capacity to keep making so much content. And I love talking to you. And I love making content and I love making these things available. And I always think, how can I help people more? How can I be more in devotion? But at that point, there just wasn't the room. I just couldn't keep going on these hospital visits and then coming home and trying to record a podcast. So I'm a little rusty on making long form content. But today a topic came up and I just had to make a heartfelt conversation between you and I. A friend of mine today, who I hadn't heard from, who I usually hear from every day, and for some reason we just hadn't connected. And when we spoke today, he told me that he hadn't got a job that he wanted. And I said to him, look, you've got to keep the signal on. And what that means is out there in the world, this is such a huge planet. It's so big. It's like mind-bogglingly big. One no doesn't negate your worth or your value. It just makes it harder for you to sit in your signal without doubt. And doubt dims our signal. But in the moment where you're looking for the job, the romance, the peace of mind, in my case, I love talking about fire horses. You're looking for your herd. Your signal needs to be clear. Especially if it's something new that you're trying. So with my friend in this job, he was told that he didn't have enough experience. That is another reason to keep your signal on even louder, because what you offer for the job may not be experience, but it is something else. And there is a company out there looking for your something else right now in this moment. They are looking for you. Are you allowing them to find you? And there is a real marked difference between pick me, that being your signal versus I'm here, I'm ready, I'm here, I'm ready. Ugh. And I'm one to mess with the signal, to be quite honest with you. Sometimes when things aren't moving as fast as I want to, put some massive drums on or something. I want people to hear me and find me. And I also have another problem where sometimes I'm totally overwhelmed and I want to turn my signal right down, fade into a corner. Anyone that's introverted understands that sort of logic as well, of just being like, wow, I literally don't want anyone to see me. And I'm sure that there's all of us who fit somewhere on that spectrum of being completely wanting to be chosen and going to be as loud as we can be to be chosen. And also those on the other end of just being like, I cannot be seen and feel safe. And in fact, that is actually the crux of what this episode is. I cannot be seen and feel safe. A lot of our signal has to do with this thing called the nervous system. And I try and avoid, not that I think nervous system is jargon, but I try and avoid, the chat, the things that sort of blind you. I try and make my podcast and everything that I write and do really easy. The whole idea with Spiritual Mixtape, why I started it in the first place, was to make breathwork available for all. And that means using language that everybody understands. If you want something that's more highbrow, cool, go for it, go somewhere else. What I do is so unique, special, and actually quite simple that I don't feel like I need to dress it up in special clothes or special words. Look at me, I'm sitting here in a t-shirt and life doesn't need to be so dressed up and so glamorized and so grandiose. The most important and vital parts of life, like keeping your signal on, are down to simple things. If you need a special dress to keep your signal on, I'd actually be pro that. I love clothes. I'd be pro that. But if you need so many bells and whistles to keep your signal on, you're attracting the wrong person. What you need for your signal to be clear and for those people to be able to find you, the ones who are going to lift you up, who are part of your soul path, is just steadiness. And that comes from having a regulated nervous system. The more safe you feel in your own skin, the more safe other people will feel around you, and you will attract that. Now, the year of the fire horse is all about magnetism. I don't know if you've ever watched horses in a field, and how they figure out who the leader is and how that can change and all of that movement and dynamics. That is part of the fire horse. That is part of the whole makeup of being a horse. And it is to do with collaboration, communication, and connectivity. That's also a horse, because a horse is a herd animal. They live with other horses. A wild Mustang has other Mustangs. So coming back to this idea, though, of keeping your signal on, what I was trying to say to my friend is that your worth is never defined by the job, but you must keep your worth aligned to what you know is coming. Never downgrade to the doubt. Otherwise, you will be stuck in this unseen world and you'll keep thinking, why is no one ever picking me? Why am I never being picked? And it's not that. It's just people can't see. They can't see who you are. And I use this phrase a lot. And you would have heard it in the update like so many times since the eclipses. See with your heart is one of the things I say all the time in meditation. See with your heart. Of course, that's it's not literal. You can't see with your heart. You feel with that part. Like, how do people make you feel? And when you really, truly feel someone, that's when they're seen. Now, I got this beautiful comment on the last energy update, and I've never done this before, so bear with me as I'm figuring out how to use comments. But it was from First Love Truth 111. We love magic numbers here. They were asking about how to turn your light back on. So light and signal for me are similar and same things. The difference with what First Love is asking versus what this podcast was initially about, which was keeping your signal on despite what's happening in front of you, is First Love has turned down her signal, turned down her light in order to make other people feel safe. For me, when you do that as an act of devotion and an act of love, it can be beautiful, right? To let other people shine. Look, I'm a breathwork teacher and I've just taught a certification. You have to, in some situations, be the one that waters the plants. You have to be the gardener as opposed to the beautiful sunflower. And look, I'm called Daisy. Part of my makeup is wanting to be a happy flower that people smile at. But you must also know when to turn your light on. You must never dim it so much that you've forgotten how to come back on. And I do think that when you have a regulated nervous system, when you understand the stress response and can move between being stressed in the moment and then taking yourself back into the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's the rest and digest, the pause side, the comfort side. You are able to switch that light on and off. We must always have a way of being seen. It feels good. As a teacher and a facilitator, I sit in both roles. When I was in the music industry, it was your whole job to be behind the scenes. And it was almost difficult and jarring. And I know it is for other people because I see this all the time. The star is the star. The star is the star in the music industry, right? The star is the star. But then behind the scenes, all of the different teams have stars as well. And I think that's because you're built around this structure where there's always talent. And therefore, the people who look after the star have to be talent too and have to be recognized. But then at the same time, you can never be more famous, more important than the talent themselves. And it kind of goes back and forth and back and forth. And I know that First Love was asking about that as well. How do I become the star in my own life? How do I take that signal back? How do I allow myself to be seen? And there's so many facets to that. The two things that I would always come back to, and as much time as we have on a podcast, is this: you've got to feel safe in your own skin. When you feel safe in your own skin, then you will feel safe enough to be seen. When you're safe enough to be seen, that is when your worth piece comes in. I said this on the last podcast, but all of your relationships in life are dictated to by the one you have with yourself. You will always be treated badly if you treat yourself badly. You will be respected if you respect yourself. And I know that it's not hard and fast. There's always exceptions to the rules. There's always tough lessons to learn. And I know that people who come here can sometimes be triggered when I make these generalizations. That isn't what this is about. This is about resonating with the part that's going to give you the healing. or take you on that next healing step. I can say this with complete and utter heart. It is so important to be the star in your own life. If we were to go into those 3 roles that I was talking about on the last podcast, the star, the producer, the director, you should be all 3 at some stage. I quite like being the producer and then going between director and star. Star when I'm teaching, director when I'm leading a certification, and producer gets to sit above both and figure out all of the minutiae, as well as like, where are we going? Set the plan, write the budget. I never thought I would find those things exciting, but now that I'm in my purpose with this job, I really do. And that in itself is part of keeping the signal on. Every time in the last 5 years that I've dimmed my signal because I didn't want to be seen, because I was scared, because I was fearful, because I was in grief, I missed my dad, whatever it was, nothing good ever happens in that moment. Maybe you get to rest. That's good. But it's a sort of fitful rest. It's an anxious rest, as opposed to keep your signal on, get comfortable in the uncomfortable, and let the things come in that are meant for you. Also, let things come in and be able to say no to them. So I know that that probably doesn't fully answer First Love Truth's question, but I want them to know that there are people, in the same way that I said this to my friend this morning, there are people who need you exactly as you are right now, who want you exactly as you are, who want to journey with you, who want to be part of this vision, not the next one. You are worthy of being seen before you are perfect, and you are worthy of being your main storyline. Now, a few other things that you have all been saying to me is about the end of this karma and feeling like I can't see my way out of this. Like, you're telling me, Daisy, that, karma's ended and then everything's lovely. But I don't feel that way and I can't see anything. I can't see. So this is where I say to you again, signal isn't about seeing with your eyes. Signal is about seeing with your heart. And to come back to that. And when I was going through a really hard time as I was transitioning out of music and into this, I would often put a hand on my heart and be like, God, how do I feel? Let's take a little check here. And then I would want to control things again. And I'd want my intuition to like guide me to the perfect thing. But if your signal's not clear, how can your intuition guide you anywhere for very long? You must be in the heart. That is your strongest GPS. Now, if it's really the dead of night, and I've had a dark night of the soul, I've had it twice, in fact, in my life, very dark moments where I thought that I'd been so hurt and so damaged in this life, I wouldn't be able to figure out the next step. In those moments, you have 2 choices. You can wait for someone to switch the lights on. I've definitely done that. You can wait for the dawn to come, same vibe. Or you can put on your night vision goggles and feel your way through it. Now, I don't mean literal night vision goggles. What I actually mean is your night vision goggles is this whole idea again of the heart, of seeing with the heart. The heart doesn't have an eye, but it can see. It can see straight to the truth of a situation. Turn 90 degrees, there's a way out that way. Turn 180 degrees, go back the way you came, and then take another left. The heart can see that without having eyes. It's the thing that makes us so human and so special, is that we have this heart intelligence, this heart coherence. Now, when we're in stress mode, fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn, our nervous system is broadcasting, get out the way, we're in danger, get out the way. That's what you're broadcasting. And co-regulation means our nervous systems are syncing with everyone around us constantly. So what you find is you become a natural match to those who share your trauma or your stress. Now, diaphragmatic breathing, working with the vagus nerve, all the things I do in breathwork changes that response. I've been thinking a lot about my dad and the stress response, and I've begun to really understand who he was and why he did the things he did, because for a long time after my dad passed and I was trying to understand him, not as my dad, but as an adult, as a friend even. And the thing about my dad was he was so great with people. People really, really warmed to my dad, and he would do kind things. And one of the loveliest stories I heard about my dad after he passed, one of his neighbors said, you know, your dad, when I broke my leg, would bring the trash cans, the bins out on bin day, on trash day. And he did that for 6 weeks while my leg was in a cast. I didn't ask him to, he just did it. And that was my dad. Very kind and generous in spirit, you know? He wasn't expecting a thank you. He hadn't been asked. He just thought, oh, that's going to make that person's life easier. But the other side of my dad was that he found it difficult to hold down a job for longer than a couple of years. He would be very, very popular at first, and then there would come in a confrontational situation. And my dad's response would be, I need to quit. I need to leave. These people, you know, they don't hold me. They don't value me. They don't see me. And it was very stressful growing up in that. And really, that's one of my only criticisms of my dad. As I have done this work more, I understand that when my dad did that, it was a stress response. He was fleeing, fight, flight, or freeze. He was flighting, leaving the situation because that's how he knew how to be safe in confrontation. Without going too deep into this, my dad had a very difficult childhood, and that flight response comes from his childhood. And he must have spent his whole life with this dysregulated nervous system. So when he was happy and himself and feeling good, his signal was clear, and it would just attract so many incredible, amazing friends, so many incredible, amazing experiences. But then that self-worth piece with his work was so difficult for him. And now I understand why. At the time, I didn't. But now I do, and I so wish that he was still here and we could talk through this episode about keeping your signal on, and that I could tell him about how he could regulate his nervous system. I wish I could turn back time, actually, and take maybe as soon as I could, really, and teach my dad as a little boy how to hold his nervous system so that he could feel safe, so that others could feel safe around him. And I think that's a really important moment here, because my dad made me feel safe all the time. I felt so safe, so loved. Except for this one thing, except for his ability to hold down a job through conflict. And that's the only place I didn't feel safe with. I know my dad could protect me through anything. Nobody could hurt me. Apart from financially, I was always worried. I used to think it was a money wound. But actually now I'm like, you know, these things that we think are personality, they're just really a dysregulated nervous system that comes from patterns and conditionings that we're taught. But it becomes so much harder to keep your signal on when you're in that response. I think that breathwork is my bank. I think that when I look at what's happened to me in my life and the trauma, I should be hiding in a corner. And actually, what's happened with breathwork, like I breathe by myself once a day. I clear my energy at the end of the day, and then I breathe with clients all day long. I have this huge bank, but that doesn't mean I don't get scared and I don't get anxious. I absolutely do. But I have this bank where it lets me think before I would have done that response like my dad. Like, I need to quit, I need to quit, I need to get out of here. Before that becomes my signal, I'm like, can I do this? Do I need to leave? Do I need to get some help? So keep your signal on. That's the message of our first podcast back, beyond the energy updates. Remind yourself that you're worthy of a signal, the best signal. That this version of you right now in this present moment, not the future one, not the fixed one, not the perfect one, but the one you are right now is worthy, is so unbelievably brilliant. And if you can't believe that yet, you must breathe. You must breathe into your body, because one thing I know, without a shadow of a doubt, is that I'm lucky to be alive. We all are. That we shouldn't take life for granted. I had a friend my age pass away of cancer, breast cancer last year, the month before I found out about my mastectomy, and I was the one that got to live. And it's changed my whole perspective, because growing up with this amazing woman, she was always the most popular one in the room. Everyone knew who she was, and she had a very clear signal. I'm cool. unpopular. I'm going to say something really interesting and cultured. Just thinking about what her signatures and what her signals were is like fun. But despite how wonderful she was taken away way too early. And all I had to do was go through one operation and I'm alive. When I think about it like that, how dare I ever turn down my signal? How dare I ever remove the opportunity of me to find my fire horse or for my fire horses to find me? And even if the room was completely dark and I felt completely lost, I need to pick myself up and remind myself that not everyone gets to be here every day. Sure, you can have a moment or two to feel a little bit of a pity party for yourself. I enjoy one of those. Be a bit angry, all of those emotions to process them. But then you have to get back up and you have to remind yourself and remind everyone else I'm worthy just as I am. I always have been. And put that up as your signal. Because if you're not signaling, I'm pretty fucking great, I love myself, I am of value, and I'm perfect just as I am right now, and I want to meet you, and I want to grow with you. If you're not saying all of that, actually what you're saying instead is, please validate me, pick me. I'm not going to be worthy until you look at me and say I'm worthy. Do you want to be alongside people like that who are in that response with you? No, you deserve something more. So this has been a whole episode to remind you, keep your signal on. If you want to go my way, if you want to try it through the breathwork route, if you want to regulate your nervous system so that people feel safe around you, so that co-regulation becomes an exciting and enticing thing that you're cultivating in your life, then 2 easy ways. I have tons of free breathwork. I have a free community. You can go into the free community and try the morning meditations. I record them live within the community every other month. But the thing I would try immediately, that doesn't even mean you have to join the community, is just the 8-minute breathwork tracks. Go into the Stan store, download them. 8 minutes is what you need to shift your nervous system from the stress response into the parasympathetic. That's the chill out version. That's where people feel calm and safe around you. If people yawn around you, that's not because you're boring. That's actually because they're regulating to how safe they feel around you. I feel like I should make a whole podcast episode about that. I teach about it all the time. If you come to my classes in LA, you'll hear me say it all the time. I give a big cheer for the first, second, third, fourth sigh you get in the room. Because when people want to sleep next to you, that means that they are regulated to how chilled out and relaxed you are. So if I'm teaching in class and people are already yawning before we've even done the breath work, I know that they're like, my body is signaling that I'm safe to sleep. We have evolved to never sleep when there's a predator around, there's danger. So if you're giving a primal instinct of yawning, which is a sign to the whole tribe, to the whole herd, that it's safe to sleep, correct. We've done our jobs properly. Absolutely spot on, gold star response. 8 minutes of breath work. That's all it takes, the style I teach. All free in the Stan store. Now, if you are ready for something deeper, I'm doing a breathwork boot camp. 10 spots, 3 already sold. I would love you to come in and try it. It is 2 30-minute breathwork sessions with me at any point over the bootcamp month, and then 2 group sessions. Now, the group sessions are a little bit magical. I don't do this as often as I should. It's to do with channeling, receiving messages via sound. So some people, they're psychic, they read energy all around them. For me, my gift is different. It's to do with sound and energy and how the bowls talk to me, not using actual words, but how you play them is different depending on who's in front of you and how their energy is affecting the frequency and the vibration of the bowls. I don't do it enough, but I'm going to do 2 sessions like that in this boot camp. And the whole purpose of the boot camp is to regulate your nervous system to your most abundant, special, wonderful, brilliant life. Perfect, just as you are. Worthy, just as you are. No longer okay. No longer a half dim light. Perfect, just as you are. Regulating your nervous system to that. That's the intention of the whole of the boot camp. Only doing it in April. It came to me when I was in the mountains this weekend, and everything has just sort of flowed as it should when you're in alignment. That conversation with my friend this morning, hey, keep your signal on. That beautiful comment on the YouTube from Sunday. How do I keep my light on? Like, how do I not dim my light? How do I be the star in my own life? I know that there are lots of ways to get there, but if you're listening and resonating with me, then you're going to resonate with breathwork as well. And I really push you into that. So there's 2 ways. The breathwork, 8-minute tracks, free, go download them, don't even need to be in the community. If you want to work with me closer, do the bootcamp, and it's so affordable. It's $397, $357 if you're in my community already. Get in. DM me if you want to be involved. hello@spiritualmixtape.com. Email me if you want to be involved. hello@spiritualmixtape.com. And please keep dropping your thoughts in the comments. I am going to try and incorporate more of them and reply to everybody as best I can. And if I don't reply, send it again. Please be gentle on me. I am just one daisy trying their best to put good things in the world. I do appreciate, though, feedback and opinions. Even if it's different to mine, go ahead, put that there. But just be kind to me, okay? And if you want me to give you thoughts, feelings, or even end up with your whole comment in a podcast episode, make sure you flag it and be really nice. And look, if you've just found me, thank you so much. If you're an OG, thank you so much. Please keep liking, subscribing, sending it to your friends. This helps to grow the community. And the more the community grows, the more I can make things available, either for free, better prices, more products that are better for you. The world needs regulated nervous systems. We need to feel safe around one another. I was saying this weekend that I spent so much of my working career in the music industry, and I was successful. I was a vice president, but I think I was scared maybe 85% of the time. And the 15% of the time when I wasn't scared, I was acting from my ego. I don't think there was ever whole moments of me feeling authentic. We need a world where we feel safe around one another. We are hardwired, like I said about the sighing and the yawning. We are literally hardwired to feel safe around each other and to sleep as a pack. When we don't feel safe around each other, when we are isolated from one another, that isn't how we were made to live or how we should have evolved. We are going against our own essence and nature. Okay, I'm so happy to be back. I haven't done a podcast like this for a while. Thanks for being here. Thanks for letting me do it. And if you've listened this far, oh my gosh, a big thank you to you. I hope you email me and we can just have a conversation about it. So until Sunday when we have our next energy update, I'll see you then. Bye.